So, when it comes to manga and anime, oftentimes the storyline could be something about superheroes, superpowers, or anything that is just out of this world. Usually, it's never a slice of life type story, unless you're searching that out. Of course, this isn't a bad thing, as many of my favorite manga have these elements in it. For example, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, One Piece, Made in Abyss, and many others. But I note this to say that when a mangaka artist does decide to make a story that's not centered in these outer world things and actually centered on this world and the stuff that can actually happen here, it's very interesting to see how they do it. Many times it's smaller, simpler scale stories like The Way of the House Husband or Fruits Basket or any of these easier to read manga. So that's why when I find a manga that's not like supernatural or have all these superheroes in it and is centered on this earth and is also a genre that's not really explored, it piques my interest. A manga that's done that for me recently is Monster by Naoki Urasawa. If you're an avid manga reader, I'm sure you've heard of Monster, as it's one of the most praised manga in the whole manga sphere. And I think what really piqued my interest to actually go pick up and read this manga, because I'll be honest, a lot of these highly recommended manga I do not read or don't have the time to finish, is that number one, again, it's not about superheroes and all this like supernatural stuff, and also it's a mystery novel. I've heard of a lot of slice of life manga, and a lot of them are like romance type manga, but I have not heard of many mystery manga. And me personally, I'm a big fan of psychology, and a manga that follows a serial killer and tries to expose him and like see what his motives are, I would definitely be interested in that. I actually recently just finished this series as of about 2 days ago, and I loved the ending. But I knew from the start that I would love this series because from the start we know who the killer is, Johan. Which is really crazy to think about because there's many manga or anime or books that's centered around mystery. You don't know who the killer is or who actually did it, but you knew from the start who did this. And this book is more of a journey of Dr. Tenma trying to clear his name than it is trying to figure out who is the killer, because we know that already. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about a few of my thoughts after finishing the series. So obviously spoilers, if anybody hasn't read the series, or if you don't care about spoilers, feel free to watch the video. So the number one thing to me is, I've heard a lot of people say the ending was underwhelming, and I just don't understand that. I loved this ending. This ending was crazy, it was chaotic, and it was perfect for Johan. The idea of this perfect suicide where he kills off everybody that knows about him and himself so that he's kind of erased from history is a crazy idea, but it makes sense, and it makes sense for Johan. And I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely a little bit confused after finishing the series, so I definitely watched about 4 different videos covering Johan and his motivations and what actually happened. And I've seen one talking about how his whole life is basically the rooftop game, which is basically when you test fate to see if you're really supposed to be alive. And yeah, I get that, and I get that many people are confused about that, but for me, the main question that I left the series with is, how did Johan really become a monster? Or a better question is, was he born a monster? Can humans even be born a monster? Is that possible? Because I don't think he was a monster when he left Kingdom Helm. I think he was a monster before he was even put in there. After the twins fled the Three Frogs place, he literally killed every single person that cared for them. And that was before he got to that orphanage. He had that darkness inside of him. And you can say, well, maybe he got that, or maybe that monster was created from his mother, as he believes that she might have meant to send him instead of sending his sister, so he was never wanted, and she also abandoned him. And also, although she did have names for the twins, for some reason she never told the twins their names before she left them. Maybe that's why Johan's so heartless, but I don't know too much about this because his sister was going through the same exact thing. In fact, she went through worse because she went to the Red Rose Mansion, but she never came out like that. And I know they went to different orphanages, but like I said, he was a monster before he got to that orphanage. And why did he turn into a monster and not his sister? Obviously, children are going to react in different ways, but are they supposed to be a direct parallel of each other? As to say that, yeah, two people can go through the same situation but still come out different, which does make sense. But does that justify him killing all these people before he even got to the orphanage? Was that a good enough reason for him to do that? Essentially what I'm trying to say is, was the trauma enough for Johan to really crack and have that psychotic break and basically become a sociopath and have no feelings before he even got to the orphanage? And that's the main question I'm left with, but honestly, he could have been born this way. And that's what scares me the most, and that's why I love this book so much, because you can draw so much stuff from it, and he definitely did that on purpose. As Naoki has this open-ended ending where Johan's not in his bed, and the reader's left to decide what happened. Personally, I think this story really comes up to your personal morals and how you feel about this whole idea of a monster. Can a monster be created, or can a monster be born? And that's what I leave the story with. I'm unsure of either. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, he definitely went through enough trauma to start doing that, but other times I think maybe he was just born like that. You know, in psychology there's many different case studies like that, and maybe he was just born that way, or his brain didn't function in the way that it should have functioned. But those are my thoughts after reading The End of Monster, and I'll probably do another video on this series in the future because I loved it so much, and I think there's so many different interesting plot points in the story. But I just wanted to make a video condensing all my thoughts in one video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys drop a like, drop a sub, drop a comment, and tell me what you think about the series if you read it before, you know? More videos coming very soon. Deuces.